James McAnespy here, founder of New Ireland TV. It is the 3rd of March. Last couple of weeks now where we're still in beta testing. I don't really like setting dates because it sets expectations with the audience that I might not necessarily be able to match. The way things work is that I can upload a video and it might not be at the audience's end for maybe 36 to 72 hours. So when I set a specific date, it can lead to disappointment. I did want to address a few stories. There's an awful lot going on at the minute that I haven't really addressed in these editorials yet. The first one is Scotland. Now, I did say before that I was expecting the British media to start playing Ireland's interest against Scotland. They will start pitting Scotland against Ireland's interests, and we have to be aware of that. We have to spot it when we see it. We have to call it out when we see it. It's the only tactic they have. They pretty much exhausted all their good reasons for staying in Britain in the 2014 referendum. There has been one example that somebody has pointed out to me in a Max Hastings article that I shared. It's not actually the most egregious example I've ever seen, so I'm not actually going to count that. And I actually thought he was quite friendly to Scotland, but then as soon as I posted it, a lot of Scots people came in and said that it was anti-Scottish, which I didn't even pick up, so maybe it is already working. But they haven't had to actually play us against Scotland yet because they're able to play Nicola Sturgeon versus Alex Salmond. This is very, very ugly at the moment, and the English papers, particularly The Guardian and The Independent, are fucking creaming themselves at the opportunity to derail Scottish independence. Alex Salmond is totally within his rights to want to protect his reputation, really. I remember when those accusations first came to light, the first thing he was asking was, who is it making these accusations? I can't defend myself if I don't know what the accusations are. He has been exonerated of all charges, and therefore he now is within his rights to try and make sure his reputation is now put back intact. So he is within his rights, but Jesus Christ, Alex, could you not have waited 6 months until after the Assembly elections? And then you've got 5 years where you can get this out of the way in the first 6 months of the Assembly, and then support a campaign for a free Scotland. It seems to be directed to inflict the maximum amount of damage, specifically to Nicola Sturgeon, and by extension the Scottish independence movement. I don't believe yet that he isn't trying to destabilise the independence movement deliberately, but he is smart enough to know that his actions will certainly knock it off course and sort of break up the momentum that has been built up over the last 10 or 12 years. The problem was that this fucking witch hunt that went round, and I use that word very, very deliberately. I know people don't like people using it in regards to the Me Too movement, but there was an element of witch huntery to it. Witch hunting, of course, was when the imperialist mindset of the Puritans in the east coast of the United States just decided that women were being a bit too uppity of themselves, and because they defined them by the circumstances of their birth, they decided that they were guilty before due process. A lot of that took place during the Me Too movement. I do want to clarify, the Me Too movement was desperately needed, and it was overall a good thing. But let's not kid ourselves here. There was an awful lot of piling in and kicking people when they were down, and turning somebody being slightly uncomfortable into a sexual assault accusation, which, sometimes I'm thinking specifically of the Aziz Ansari one, where he invited a girl to his house. She went to his house after having tried to get a date with him for after trying to get a date with him for several weeks. He finally invited her around to his house, and at several occasions tried to initiate physical relations, and she called him out in the Me Too movement, even though he didn't actually force himself upon her when she had refused. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of self-righteous jumping on the bandwagon to get their complaint in. So now Alex Salmond is sort of becoming the becoming the counterweight to that. And as I said, if we had waited 6 months, it would have been a much needed purging of that mentality. But at the moment now, it's just a circus show for the likes of the Guardian and the Independent and the imperialist newspapers in England and the BBC, just to just gather the popcorn round, sling as much shit as they can, and ignore the actual facts of the case and just bring it up as crisis in the SNP. Will this derail Scottish independence? Rah 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 rah. They haven't, as far as I can tell, they haven't actually started moving against us yet, because they haven't needed to, because Alex Salmond, passing the ball in the 6-yard area, and they're just going to tap into an open goal in regards to that. But the other big thing I wanted, speaking of sports, I did actually try to make a sports video, but due to technical hitches, I didn't actually get it released. Because one of the things that might prove to be quite a unexpected barrier to reuniting the country is actually sport, and I'm specifically thinking of soccer. Soccer could actually turn out to be the big headache in all this. My proposition is that the Irish soccer should be removed back to Belfast and not Dublin, because Dublin is too centralised to far too many things. So it's about time we start taking things out of Dublin. Number two, the FAI have been an absolute disgrace at the executive level, and they can't even get themselves a sponsor at the moment, and I'm still not sure they have a chief executive. And the Irish FA have been actively trying to be more inclusive to their fan base. At least they are actively promoting women's soccer. I do think there's a much more concentrated base of soccer fans in and around Belfast than there is in pretty much any other part of the island. So for those reasons, I would propose putting the seat on the IFAB, the World Soccer rule-making body, is a very powerful position to have, and it'd be very stupid to give it up. Was basically my premise. So yesterday, to a lot of celebration, a 5-nation bid for the 2030 World Cup. That's for England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland to host the World Cup in 2030. This is a terrible idea. On the face of it, it seems like a great idea. Yay, everyone gets to be friends across the two islands. It's really not. It's a very bold and surreptitious attempt to further clarify the division between the North and the South. There is absolutely no need at all for the English FA to need a joint bid with anyone to host the World Cup. The English FA could host the World Cup tomorrow. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the stadia, they've got the maybe not tomorrow because of COVID, but they've got the infrastructure, they've got the stadia, they've got the road networks, they've got the transport links. England could host the World Cup on its own, and it should have hosted the 2018 World Cup, the one that went to Russia. Do you remember Russia? They're the place that has concentration camps for gays, the place that shoots down civilian airplanes, the place that poisons people on UK soil, the place that tried to poison Alex Navalny, and as soon as he got back in, they put him in prison. Yeah, that Russia. Do you remember that place that should never be giving a fucking World Cup? That should have went to England. If it was based on, rationale and, good governance, etc., that would have went to England. So no, I do not support this 2030 bid. Number two, when the referendum comes round, if a World Cup is on the horizon, it'll be a very nice way to promote the individuality of Northern Ireland. The false way to promote that, by the way. Number three, where the fuck are they going to host these matches? Where the fuck in Belfast is going to host the World Cup match? Where in Dublin, apart from the Aviva, is going to host the World Cup match? I don't expect Croke Park to be handing over money to FIFA, who will not pay tax in Ireland, who will, when the World Cup happens, who will not have any expenditure in Ireland when the World Cup happens. But there's nowhere. There is fucking no stadium in the 6 counties of Ireland and 6 counties of Northern Ireland that can host a fucking World Cup match. It's not even a fucking starter. Like, Windsor Park is not big enough. It is not connected well enough. It is not, it's just not of the fucking code, basically. It's fucking useless. This is a whole fucking dressage exercise in trying to establish the identity and authenticity of a 6 county Northern Ireland and a 26 county Republic of Ireland. And my final point, by the way, as I said, I'm not even sure there's a friggin' a chief executive in the FAI. So who the fuck has been speaking on their behalf in order to make this decision? And why have they jumped on board to host the FIFA World Cup with their four closest rival football associations, and which they can't even fucking organise a sponsor for themselves? The whole fucking thing is a sham. It's not a real bid, and if it is, it's gonna fucking fail. And if it wins, it will have won through corruption and backhanders, which FIFA is so well known for. The football landscape will have changed so dramatically by 2030. I fully expect a European Super League to be fully established by that point. It's a complete non-starter. Everyone is a bit excited, and I want to reassure everyone that do not get excited. Ireland's tried to host the Rugby World Cup, which is a much smaller tournament. It doesn't require stadiums anywhere near as large, and the Rugby World Cup decision-making body said that the stadiums weren't good enough, the transport links to the stadiums weren't good enough, and the parking at the stadiums wasn't good enough. The stadiums, in other words, were not good enough, and this was with the GAA stadiums. These stadiums that can hold 25, 35, 45,000, except quite a lot of them have standing room, which is of course not viable for a World Cup stadium. It's a splash in the pan. I didn't actually think it would get as much attention as it did. I was actually going to save this for the weekend, but because it did get a bit of a boost on the likes of Joe.ie, etc., I did have to feel like I had to address. And the other thing is, what the fuck do you want a World Cup for? Okay, yes, a lot of tourists will come in, hopefully, but will there be travel restrictions still in place by then because of vaccine passports? What if the African countries and South American countries are still dealing with waves of pandemic? Is it going to be a World Cup, or is it going to be just a nice wee party for a few top European players in a different jersey? FIFA notoriously put in their bidding process that they will not pay any tax at all. So the whole thing, from a civic point of view, the whole thing is a loss-making exercise. Any tourists that come in, is it the tourism infrastructure to deal with that huge amount? We're talking, but you're talking about 1 million people perhaps descending upon the nation. It puts a lot of stress on leisure resources and just regular resources. In the South Africa World Cup, FIFA set up courts that were completely extrajudicial from the South African legal system. And by the way, these fucking pop-up court systems that have been in vogue since around the 2004 London riots, where basically courts can come in and a police officer can just say, this boy was there, fucking send him down. That is the entire due process in these courts. All the police officer has to do is identify that somebody was present, and they get a custodial sentence. That is not an administration of justice, by the way. That is a travesty of despotery, and it's happened about 6 or 7 times in the last 10-12 years. So I just wanted to dampen everyone's expectations about what a 5-nation bid for the World Cup really means. It's not going to mean that Sergio Ramos and Neymar and Messi and Ronaldo and Gareth Bale are going to be hoofing up and down Windsor Park. What it's going to mean, it's just a costume exercise. Stay tuned to New Ireland TV, where we will continue to dampen your spirits. New Ireland TV, a new TV station for New Ireland.